Well, you know, everybody.
I'm figuring out 5 ways of the highway.
Very interesting.
What's up, Coco?
Here comes Anthony.
Hey, Anthony.
Hello.
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 Okay, you got Anthony. All right. Hey, Anthony.
Hello.
Here they are.
Wonder who else is coming today. We got 10:01.
I have shiny dice. They're in this satchel.
Hey. Well, it's been kind of cold the last few days. What's everybody been doing to stay warm? You've been selling lots of snow
Sleeping.
cones, Abby? Yeah?
Yeah. Yesterday was pretty slow, but I mean, like, we still opened, still made money.
Yeah? Well, that's all right then. That's good. That's good. Well, let's see. Ace, what are you doing now that you're not at the pizza joint?
You're muted.
Hello?
The chance he's not paying attention.
Cyan, what have you been up to?
We got tomatoes right for a storm to hit.
Yeah?
I spent an entire day potting them, digging out in our rock garden little holes for the pots, and then we had to bring them all inside. So I'm gonna have to spend an entire another day making their spots again.
Oh my gosh. Yep, that's how it goes when you're an Oklahoma gardener. So you gotta one more night, I think, to cover them up, and then after tonight, I think it'll be okay. Man, yeah, that's rough. No, I had my peach trees and my apple trees and my pear trees have been blooming, and I've got little baby peaches on my trees, so I'm gonna be disappointed if they get zapped by this freeze. Well, I wonder if anybody else is coming today. No.
Daddy.
Well, tell me about your last week's assignments all about France. How'd you guys do?
I did pretty good.
You got your Julia watched and then did the questions. Yeah. How did the crossword puzzle go? Was it better than the vocab drop and drag?
Honestly, yeah, it's a lot easier than the vocab we usually do.
What is it? Who's talking? Is that Sid?
She said it was easier than the vocab normally is.
Okay, well, I thought it might be. I thought you guys might like that better than the drop and drag. Did you find the list of words to help you with the to fill in the blanks? The vocab list. No. Yes. Did you find the list of words to help you with your bank of words for your crossword puzzle? Hello?
Nope. But I think I finished pretty much everything.
Good
But,
work.
I think I did everything.
You did the Julia questions after you watched it, and then it was just the crossword puzzle, right?
Oh yeah, then I did everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Good work, Anthony. Thank you. All right. Is everybody else good on that? Any questions about that?
Were we supposed to do one of those little question segments or do the entire 8? So I was a bit confused because that's for 2 pages. So pick one for the list or something.
On the Julia?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were questions underneath where the video was. There were questions about the movie, and you were supposed to answer the questions and then just upload that to me. Did everybody find that? Okay, well, if you didn't, go back and look at that, because there's a crossword puzzle that's on there, and then the movie, there's the link, and then underneath there's a set of questions, and you need to answer those questions and then upload those, okay? Got it? All right, well, let's see. Shall we get rolling here then? I think we should. I thought today we might talk about some bees. What do you think? All right. So you guys see that okay? All right. So anybody have some experience working with bees other than getting maybe stung by a bee? That's not too good, is it? I think the other day I got stung about 8 times. So we were adding some new hive bodies on some old hives that we had, and boy, they did not like that one bit. So anyway, part of it. If you're a beekeeper, you probably get stung, but that's okay, right? Yeah. Okay. So, well, you know, bees do a lot of things for our environment, and that is one of the reasons why I have bees on my farm, and I use it as a way to keep my ecosystem around my farm healthy, because they're pollinators, and so they're helping me pollinate my fruit trees and then all of the vegetables that I grow. And so it's been really beneficial. So we want to keep bees around. Okay, so one of the things that has become a real problem with bees is pesticides and herbicides that people use. They affect the colonies really pretty severely. They pick up the pesticides and herbicides as they go from flower to flower, and they bring that back in the hive with them, and then those pesticides and herbicides build up in the wax in the hive, and it becomes toxic. And so we've been seeing some diseases that are related to pesticides and herbicides in the bee colonies. And so the less of that stuff that we can have around, the better we're going to be environmentally. Okay, so but we try to do things pretty you know, minus the chemical if we can, and so we're using lots of manure as fertilizer and compost. Okay, so I haven't had my hives that long, but about well, spring of 2018. So what's that? 18, 19, 19, 20. So a couple of years. And but if you guys are interested in something like that, you can get started pretty inexpensively. And there's lots of beekeeping clubs around in your area that will probably help you get started, because you know bees are really important, like I said, to our environment, and a lot of the beekeepers really feel that way, and they're helping people that are interested in that. They'll probably give you all the parts that you need, and they'll coach you up on information that you need. And there's There's a Delaware County Beekeepers Association. There's probably one in every county. If you get, there's Facebook groups that meet, that are all kinds of resources. But it's a pretty fun thing to do. So there's lots of different kinds of bees that are that you can buy in the United States. The kind that I bought are Italian bees, and they are noted for being pretty gentle, and you can get in the hive without getting them too upset. And so that's why I chose that particular kind. When I bought them, you buy them in something called a nuke, NUC, which stands for nucleus, but we just call them nukes. And inside those little white boxes there's 4 frames, 1 queen, and then lots of bees. And then you shake those out whenever you get home. You'll shake those out into the hive where you're going to put them. And it's a pretty interesting process to watch. Okay, so this is one of my hives, and this is kind of what's going on down inside those hives. Anybody ever looked inside a hive before? Have you ever looked at a video or ever helped somebody beekeep? Anybody? Anybody? No? Okay. Well, anyway, this particular frame here is mostly brood, which is where the queen lays the eggs, and then the worker bees that take care of what we'll call the nursery, and that's down in this big box on the bottom here. That's what's going on. Then usually we'll have honey up here in a box like this. Okay, and over here you can see where the eggs have turned into larvae. Do you see those little bee larvae in there? And this is the worker bees, and they've capped this, and this is probably honey over here, and this is where they've capped it. Kind of cool stuff. Okay, so, well, you guys may have studied this in your environmental science class, maybe, how bees make honey. Has anybody ever looked at that before? You guys ever seen that before? No? Curtis, have you seen anybody have been to a lesson about how bees make honey?
No.
No. Okay. Well, here's kind of just a basic run through here. So bees, as you know, buzz around, and what they're doing is going from flower to flower to flower, collecting nectar. Okay, and inside that nectar, there's sugar, and well, mostly water, but a little bit of sugar. But the bee has enzymes in its little honey stomach that start to break those down into simple sugars. Remember, fructose, and anything that ends in ose is sugar. You guys remember that? Anything that ends in ose. So fructose and glucose, and those are easily absorbed types of sugars. And then they have another enzyme in their honey stomach that helps to prevent microbial growth, and which is really similar to hydrogen peroxide of all things. Go figure. And then they put this nectar that they've mixed these enzymes with into the combs in the honey, or in the combs in the hive, I mean, and then they leave it there uncapped for a while so that it can evaporate some of the moisture and it thickens up like we know honey to be. And they do that by flapping their wings inside the hive. So that's kind of cool, isn't it? Okay, so here's that picture again of the bees working, and there's tons and tons of bees inside a colony, but there's only one queen. And sometimes when you look down in a hive, you'll see kind of a long oval shaped little cocoon, and that's a new queen cell. And the queen will either, if she's able, she'll kill it and try to so that she's the only one. But if she's getting weak, her group may try to run her out and then develop this new queen that they're raising. So it's kind of interesting, kind of the pecking order, so to say, of the hive. But bees are born to be who they are. Either they're born to be the queen or a worker bee or even a drone, and they're going to be in that same role for their entire life. Well, here's the queen right here. And, you know, you can buy just a queen, or you can buy the nuke, like I said. But if you buy just the queen, a lot of people will mark the queen with a magic marker. And there's a little tool that you catch them with that looks kind of like a hair clippy to me, that's kind of springy, and it'll hold the queen, and then they put a little magic marker spot on the queen. And, you know, there's thousands of bees flying around her in a hive, so, you know, the odds of seeing her without some marking like that are pretty slim. And so they're marked like that, which is kind of interesting to see. But the queen lays all the eggs in the hive, and so she's busy, but she doesn't do anything but lay eggs. They take care of her, they feed her, they do everything for her, which is what the worker bees are born to do. And here's all the worker bees, and all the worker bees are females. And their job is to build the hive and take care of the hive, and they take care of the queen, and they raise all the baby bees, and they forage for food. They guard the hive. They take out the dead. They only live about 3 weeks, but considering how much stuff they do, probably no wonder. Okay, bees die if they sting you, so they really don't want to sting you. Did you know that? So they have it's only female bees that have a stinger. The male drones, the male bees, they don't have a stinger, but the female bees have a stinger, and if they sting you, they inject their stinger or kind of sling it out towards you, and it tears their abdomen, and then they die. And so they really don't want to sting you unless they have to. And we really don't want them to sting us. So hopefully we'll find a way to get along without getting stung, huh? Well, here's the drones, and those are the male bees, okay? And there's probably a few hundred that live in a hive, so not a lot. They really don't contribute to the hive. Really, what they do what they do is mate with queens. So once the queen hatches out of her cell, she goes out on one flight, and they find her there. And so it's kind of interesting how it works. And oh, by the way, at the end of the season, all of the worker bees, the females, forcibly expel the drones, and so they don't eat up all the food. And so they're pretty short-lived too. I thought this was kind of interesting. Here's all the size of the bees. So there's the queen bee in comparison. So she's the biggest, and the drone is pretty good size himself. And then here's all the worker bees. Okay, so whenever you get ready to harvest honey, all those frames I was showing you, those in that top smaller box, we put them in a little tank that works kind of like a centrifuge, and it spins and it slings the honey out. And so this right here, that's it's a hot iron, and it takes the cap off of the honey, so it'll start running out. And then, like I said, we put it in a centrifuge, and then it spins, and then all of the honey runs out into a bucket here, and I've got a fabric on there that kind of strains out any of the wax, so that all it is just pure honey whenever we lift all of that out. Okay, well, here's some little trivia. So bees are the only insects that produce food eaten by men. Can you think of any other? This would be a good trivia question. This sounds like a Curtis question. Where's Curtis? So can you think of any other foods that insects make that humans eat?
I cannot.
Okay, well, I'm thinking there's not any others. Okay, but it's almost
Oh, I just remembered that some people eat maggots. So yeah, there's that.
Right, but that's the whole bug and not something that they make. right?
Fair point.
Okay. All right. So, well, it's almost all sugar, so it is great for a quick burst of energy. Did you know that we used it in honey in World War One and World War II? We used it for different types of treatments for like an antibiotic. These make something called propolis, which is like glue, and it's the thing that they glue down the lids of their hives and any little cracks. But in that propolis, remember I told you that they mix that enzyme that's kind of similar to hydrogen peroxide, and that particular chemical is in the propolis, and so it's been used for hundreds of years as an antibiotic. And so honey just smeared on top of a cut or a scrape or a burn is in some cases works really well. And they used to, before antibiotics, which I think was like 1942 or something like that, prior to that, they would take hives with them in different types of scenarios where people might be out scouting or things like that, just to help with any type of accident. So, anybody got allergies? Anybody suffer from sneezing and coughing? Oh, it's the worst, isn't it? Well,
Yes.
local honey that is from your area, like I told you before, those bees are going from plant to flower, 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 flower. If you'll have a teaspoon of honey every day, it's supposed to help build up your immunity to the pollen that is native to your area. So buying local honey, don't buy the grocery store kind of honey unless your grocery store sells local honey. But local honey, like at the farmer's market, or I think Harp sells some that's kind of from around this area, but that can help you with your allergies. So that could be a good thing, huh? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, anybody ever done any cooking with honey?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what
You've actually approved a recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that lumbus.
Yeah. Okay. So anybody else? Anybody cooked with honey before? Sid, what about you, honey? Did you cook with honey before?
I made the limbus with Curtis, so technically yes.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Sai, have you cooked with honey before?
Oh boy. It's screwing out on me.
Cyan?
Yeah.
You have? Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys that have cooked with honey before, what are some things that you noticed about it?
It kind of makes it sweet-ish.
It does. That is something really. I'm glad you brought that up, Sid, because of the fructose level in honey, it's much sweeter than sugar is, and so it doesn't take as much of it to get to this level of sweetness that we might want. So yeah, it's a lot sweeter.
It's really strong.
Well, some of it tastes. It tastes different than sugar, doesn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what
why?
It depends on what the bees have been foraging on. If they've been on something that's a stronger taste, like some different trees, for instance, it'll taste different or have a stronger taste than something, say, like clover or something like that. Okay. So what were some other things? Did you use a recipe that called for honey, or did you use a recipe that called for sugar and used honey? Anybody do that?
Lumbus called for honey.
Okay. Sai, whenever you cook, did you use a recipe that called for honey or sugar?
Just one that called for honey. It was a honey chicken.
Okay. So, you can substitute those, but there's a few things that you might have to change, because if you think about it, honey is a liquid, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then sugar is dry, and so you got to account for that liquid somewhere in your recipe, otherwise it's going to be soggy, right? Does that make sense? Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's kind of an idea of what you can do. Honey for sugar, like Sid mentioned, you know, honey's going to be quite a bit sweeter. So I think you can cut that back by about half of the sugar that it calls. If it calls for a cup of sugar, you could use a half a cup of honey. Okay. Some other things that that we probably should talk about with the liquid. So let's say your recipe called for milk or water or something like that, then you're going to cut that back by about 1/4 of a cup for each cup of honey, because remember we're accounting for that liquid in the honey. Okay. Another thing that we'll have to account for is the leavening, the thing that makes it rise. And so that's going to be 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. And one time we talked about something called the Maillard effect. Does anybody remember what that is? Some of my bakers?
Nope.
Brian, do you remember what that is? Maillard effect. Okay, well, that has to do with the browning of sugar. Okay, and since we talked about honey being quite a bit sweeter, it's also going to brown faster than sugar, and so we're going to need to reduce the temperature that we're cooking at by 25 degrees, and that'll help with over browning. And so there's a little bit of kind of trial and error when you're cooking with honey, just because it's a new and a new ingredient that we're trying to introduce, but it has a lot of fantastic benefits. Okay, here's one of the things that we have to do to treat our hives. And one of the things that is kind of a new problem are mites. And these little microscopic mites or they're kind of like a tick. Has anybody ever had a tick before?
Yes.
Yeah, they're annoying, aren't they? And so in these
Very
mites,
much so.
Yeah, these mites are kind of like ticks on bees. And so after we harvest the honey, then we treat them for mites, for varroa mites, with a product called Apiguard, and it's organic. It's thyme, you know, the herb thyme, right? And this is kind of an oil gel made from that. And so, but we do a couple of treatments to keep those mite counts low, because after July, if you think about what the landscape looks like, it gets pretty hot and dry, doesn't it? And so there's not a lot of things that are blooming at that time, so there's not a lot of food for the bees, and so they're having to use what's in the hive, and so whatever's in there is what they're gonna last, has to last them throughout the winter. And if they're not healthy going into winter, then they really won't survive. So that's kind of something that we have to deal with every year. Okay, and here's something. So I started out with 3 hives, but one of my hives didn't do very well for some reason. The queen, I don't know if they didn't like her, or if she ran off, or if the whole hive swarmed and went another place. But if that happens, a weak hive will be taken over by usually moths, and this is what the wax moth larvae look like right here. And they will just destroy a hive. They'll eat all. What they want is the wax that's in the hive, and so they will, like I said, just pretty much destroy it. So we got to keep healthy hives. Okay. So, but as we were talking about before, you know, bees are going from flower to flower to flower, and you know they're gathering nectar, and then they're bringing back things for their hive, but they're also doing something else that's very important for us, and in that they're pollinating our fruits and vegetables that are growing in our gardens and to feed people. And if they're not doing their job, then we're not going to be able to eat. So we've got to figure out the problem of how we're going to care for the bees and work around the pesticide problem. So if they go, we go. So we need them. Okay. So here's some things that that you can do. So planting flowers in your yard, and try not to spray things like pesticides and herbicides. So if you have a bird like a bird bath, you can put rocks in your bird bath so that the bees can land on the rocks and drink the water. And like I told you before, if you're interested in it, you can start a hive pretty inexpensively, and there's lots of people around that would love to help you do it. And so get on Facebook and look for beekeeping groups, and I bet you'll find one that's pretty close to where you're at, and kind of get in with that group, and it could be a lot of fun. Okay, and even if you live in town, you can do it. I live in Grove. In the city ordinance, even if you live in town, you can have 2 hives on a 4th acre lot, and so that's a lot. That is a ton of honey that you could have, and you could keep it or give it to somebody, or even sell it at the farmer's market. Okay. All right. So how was that?
Good.
Good. You guys got any
I
questions?
liked it.
Yeah.
So did I.
So are you curious about bees, anybody?
Kinda. But I'm
If
more
I
so
could, I'd
interested.
certainly have bees.
You what?
If I could, I'd certainly get bees, but we have cats in our neighborhood. I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Well, they can get along
I
really
don't think
well.
that'd be.
Yeah, they'll get along.
These cats are ferals. They're not going to be happy about it if I do that. They're probably going to destroy something.
Oh,
They're
well,
mean. Lots of them.
okay. All right.
I
Well,
was spinning dice.
okay.
Nah.
All right. So, well, what else, guys?
I don't know how to do the assignment.
Okay. So let's you guys been on there and looked at it. So you're supposed to explore bees or honey, or there were lots of different ideas on there, weren't there? Mm-hmm. And you can do it like a slideshow, or you can do it like a video if you want to, or you could do it like a lots of different ways, right?
We could do just like a paragraph or something.
Well, it may take you more than a paragraph to say what you need to say, but I was thinking something that maybe included some pictures and kind of covered the topic fairly well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not know about if you sprayed your measuring spoons or whatever you're measuring your honey with
Yeah.
like non-stick cookie spray or olive oil. I did not know it would just slide right out.
Yeah.
So
Sure
keep that in
enough.
mind.
Look at that. So did you guys see your recipe of the day? Have you been on Moodle yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Well,
I
there's-
always wait till after these Zoom meetings.
That's good. So what's on there is called Morning Glory Muffins. And if you watch the video, you'll see I said it had, I think, 18 ingredients. And That's a lot, isn't it? You think that's a lot of ingredients? Mm-hmm. So, but the good thing about it is you can substitute a lot of that. Let's see here. There we go. That's better, isn't it? You can, things like different kinds of flour. And, you know, we're learning about honey and sugar and how to exchange those. It has some wheat germ in it. And, you know, there's other things that you could substitute for that or even just leave it out. So did anybody watch Good Morning America, or rather the Today Show today? There was a lady on there that was telling all about different, did you watch it, Abby? And she was telling all about different substitutions. There, did you watch it this morning, Abby?
Yeah, I watched part of it.
Okay. Did she have a substitute for eggs? I think she did.
Oh, I didn't watch that part.
That part, yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of substitutions. And so if you're missing an ingredient, you can Google what can I substitute for eggs, or what can I substitute for oil, and there's all kinds of things that will work. And you know, right now we're all kind of kind of limited sometimes for having to maybe make do with things that are just in the refrigerator presently, because we're not going to the store quite as much, and so sometimes we may be out of things, and so it can be really helpful to do the substitutions, right? Yeah. So anyway, let's get on there and look at the recipe. If you guys make it, you don't have to. You don't feel like you have to make that recipe, but if you feel like that you'd like to, I would love to see what you made. And so they're pretty tasty. So I had made them, I think that was yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. And so I went for breakfast this morning. They're pretty good. And they fish really well too, which is nice. So anyway, what else, guys? I think we're about to get done here. Anything else you want to know about?
I looked at the Julia discussion question. It said pick a topic from the list and write your thoughts. So I'm not sure how we're supposed to answer every single one. Or
it says what?
Pick a discussion question from the list. Choose one topic below and write your thoughts. It should take 2 pages. There's about 8 of them, so I'm not.
Okay.
This is still very confusing.
I think you're supposed to answer all of those. I don't know why it says pick a topic. I think it wants you to answer all of those questions on there. Okay. All right, what else?
So for today's assignment, it's pretty much explore the internet and write about it or make a video.
Right, you can do it if you want to do a slideshow, like a PowerPoint slideshow. You could do that. If you want to do a video, you can totally do that. If you wanted to, if you're artistic and wanted to do, draw something and film it, and then drop the cards while you're talking about it, and any way that you can think of to be creative about showing and telling what your topic is would be fantastic. Yes, Abby.
Okay, so we are supposed to just pick one of those things, right?
Right. Yeah, on this assignment, you'll just pick one of those. I was just throwing out some ideas, but if you can come up with another idea, then go for it. But any of those topics would be great, and just kind of show and tell about it. If you can find some pictures of it to include on your slides, Or if you have something at home that you can physically show that you're doing with it, that would be fantastic too. I'm leaving it up to you to be creative, however you want to do it. Okay. All right. Any more questions about that? Nothing else? Okay. Well, is everybody okay? Anybody need anything or worried about anything, or everybody's okay?
I'm excited for the 23rd.
You what?
I'm excited for the 23rd.
What's going on the 23rd?
I ordered some headphones. They're gonna ship on the 18th. They were gonna take 4 to 7 days to arrive. By my calculations, the earliest they can arrive is the 23rd.
Well, there you go.
Because the 18th is Saturday and the 19th is Sunday, and Light in the Box does not work on Sundays.
Okay. Well, that'll be exciting when they arrive, won't it? Good deal. All right. Well, anybody else have any school-related things that are going on that you need help with or questions?
How many more times will we meet on Zoom before the year's up?
Let's see here. We'll be meeting for class through Tuesday, May 5th, and then we're going to have our virtual Zoom party graduation on Friday, May 8th, and that'll be the last one. Okay. So we have a couple more. I'll keep sending out Zoom reminders. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, anybody need anything?
Can I share an interesting fact about those puffs I made?
Okay.
I hadn't gotten the right amount of heavy whipping cream.
Mm-hmm.
But Mom thought, hey, we could substitute a little bit of that I had, because I thought it only took a cup. Took a cup and a half. So we substituted a half a cup of cream for half a cup of coffee creamer, because it was really thick coffee creamer.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay.
So,
yeah, this is the time to be creative, isn't it, Curtis?
Yeah.
So, Anthony says it'd be 4 more meetings. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. All right. What else, guys?
I don't have anything.
Nothing else? Okay. Well,